All right, let's go ahead and put some more work into this guy. So the first thing that I noticed is looks like I forgot to clean up that portion of his ear. I can kind of see the white that's coming in through that. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to zoom in, going to make the man layer active, hold down the Alt key, click on the mask so that you reveal what's on the mask. I'm going to switch to the lasso, and I'm going to highlight that area that I missed. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to switch to my brush, and I'm going to decrease the size of my brush. It was really big, so I'm going to use the brackets to move it down. And I'm going to flip the color so that white is the active color. So once again, make sure you're on the mask. White is your active color, and your paintbrush is selected. And then just tap a couple times. What I'm noticing is I forgot to lower or increase the opacity, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that up. Opacity is just how much of the brush is showing up. So if I do 50%, only half of the color is showing up. It's like a light thing, and I just spray it several times. Press Control D, and that will deselect. Press Control 0, and it zooms out. Okay, so that was just a cleanup I wanted to do. Now what I want to do is I want to change the color of his hat because I think it's a little too strong. So I'm Control minusing. Or Command, whoops, take that back. Control. There we go. I keep doing bracket instead of minus. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to select the man layer again, but this time instead of selecting the mask, I'm going to select the thumbnail. I'm going to come over here to the selection tool. I'm going to choose quick selection. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so I can see the hat. Now I want to make the brush so that it's only, I don't want it to go over the hat. See where it's the inside portion of the brush. I'm going to end up selecting the clouds. I don't want that. I want to keep the brush on the inside. So I am going to choose the correct tool, which is the quick select. I move a little quick for then Photo P can actually handle. There we go. And I'm going to make my brush, change my brush size here. Come on, program, you can do it. Keep forgetting that this is running on the internet, so it's going a bit slower than I'm used to running. So I'm going to move this. I'm going to make it about 40 points. I think that, yeah, there we go. All right, that did pretty good. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. So I can see it did a good job getting this exterior edge, but I missed this interior part. So I'm going to shrink the brush down. So I'm pressing the left squared bracket. And I'm making it to where I don't want to touch the skin, and I don't want to get this shadow area right now. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Oh, that grabbed way too much. See, it just grabbed his face. So I'm going to press Control Z. And when I click that edge, it grabbed too much again and press Control Z. So it looks like that's all I'm going to be able to get with the quick select. So I'm going to switch to the lasso, and I'm going to press the Shift key. Shift is going to let me add. So now I'm going to add that little chunk that's right there. I'm going to add that little chunk that's right there. That little piece right there. And then that little piece where I can still see a little bit of the orange. So I'm not as worried about the shadow because the shadow is going to get colored. It may not be noticeable. I'm really just trying to get the areas where I can really tell that there's some little bit of orange. And I can always go back in with a paintbrush later and clean that up. But that's a pretty good selection. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. All right, don't click anything else yet. What we want to do is you want to make sure that your ants go all the way to the outside and you don't have too much, you don't have a lot of extra stuff grabbed. If yours looks good, great. If it doesn't, it might be easier just to press Control D to deselect everything and give it a shot again. The practice isn't going to hurt. All right, so with the man layer selected, we're going to come down here at the bottom of the layers. The effects we did for the text effects, we're going to actually do an adjustment layer right here. We're going to click on this adjustment layer, and we're going to choose hue and saturation. Color is made up of three characteristics. The hue, which is just, is it purple, green, blue, yellow? Think about like an 8-pack of crayons. It's just the basic color. Saturation is does it have a lot of the color or very little? Like right here, it has very little. Here, it has a lot. And then lightness, or sometimes referred to as black, HSB, or V for value, is going to be how much dark is added to the color and how much light is added to the color. So hue, what is the color? Let's see, as I drag this around, now I can experiment a little bit with the color. So I'm going to make kind of a bluish color, but I want to make this a little more desaturated. Kind of a grayish blue and maybe a little bit darker. So I did 158, -69, and -3. You can highlight in there and just type it if you want. I'm going to close those layers. I'm going to press Control D, Control 0, and it zooms out. Hat looks pretty good. If I turn this layer on and off, you can see it's changed the color. You can do that with pretty much anything in the picture, but for this particular one, let's just follow along. All right, so I'm going to change the name of this to hat color. And now we're going to go to the wings. The wings are far too bright. They're too vibrant. So we're going to do a similar thing, but we're going to do what's known as a clipping mask. We're going to make it to where this adjustment only applies to the wings. So I'm going to click on the adjustment layer again. Oops, I did not mean posterize. Double clicked, so I'm going to undo. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to vibrance. And now I'm going to bring the vibrance down. I'm going to bring the saturation down a little bit too. Just kind of eyeballing it right now, trying to see if there's something where it looks better. That looks pretty good. Kind of tone down the wings. The way you can tell is just turn that off. See how it tones down the brightness of the color. And now I want to make this, let's close that one out. I want to make this only apply to the wings. So in between these two layers, so right in between here, if you hold down the Alt key, you can click. And I clicked the wrong spot. To select this layer, select the vibrance first. Now hold down the Alt key, and in between those two layers, click once. This little hook arrow means it's only affecting the layer that's below. So it's not affecting anything else. So there's that one piece. So that looks good. We'll leave that. We'll just call that vibrance. That's fine. And let's go ahead and go in and let's add the text. So I'm going to start with coming over to the text tool. Going to come up here, and I know I want to change this to a thicker font. So I'm going to turn on all, turn it off. I'm going to zoom down, scroll down. I'm going to choose a sans serif font. And I want to have something that's relatively thick and blocky lettered. So I'm just going to keep scrolling down until I see something that I like. These all look pretty similar. But what I'm looking for is something kind of like that, but not italicized. I don't know. Let's try. No, I don't like that. I want it to be a little bit more squared. There we go. We'll try League Spartan. We're going to do League Spartan Bold. I'm going to change the font size and move it up. We'll see what it looks like at 150. That might be too much. So now that I've made those settings, now I'm going to go right here, and I'm going to click the clouds, and I'm going to click once. I'm going to type in New York in all caps. That's not big enough, so I'm going to press Control A. That will select the text. And I can come in here and type, but I could type forever, like 170, that's still not big enough. 200, still not big enough. Let's try a different way to change the size of a font. I'm going to accept the transformation. I'm going to switch to my Move tool. I'm going to move this over to the corner. Now I'm going to grab this side. So we changed the size of the guy and the wings to shrink them down. Let's go ahead and hold down the Shift key. Grab this corner. Let's go ahead and make this bigger. So it fills up the entire page. And I just double click. And now I have that set up. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and add an effect on here. So let's experiment with some of the effects. So first thing is I want to go ahead and change the color of this. So I am going to highlight the text, and right up here across the top is where you can change the color. So I'm going to click on there. And instead of choosing one of the colors here, I think what I'm going to try is I'm going to click around the photo a little bit and see if I can get some kind of tone that's close. Like maybe around where his hat is. Yeah, I kind of like that kind of teal color. If you want, you can just type in that hexadecimal number. It's 6FA39F, and then click OK. We may make adjustments to this later. I'm going to click OK. Yeah, it's a little light, but that's okay. We can fix that. All right, so right here where the text is, we're going to apply an effect. So let's click on the effect, and let's go ahead and try doing a gradient overlay. I'm going to move this aside. Now what you'll see is this gradient overlay actually erased the color that was there. The reason is the blending mode when it's normal means that it's solid. I'm going to switch this to multiply, and now I've got the original color with that gradient applied. I'm going to lower the opacity a little bit, say maybe, I don't know, 85 or so. So I get this darker edge to the lighter. I'm going to hit reverse and just kind of experiment with seeing which one I like better. Kind of like it having it dark at the top. Actually, I like the dark on the bottom and the light at the top. So we'll do that. Now I'm going to click on Inner Shadow. And with Inner Shadow, let's see what we can do with this. So as I start to drag this, it starts to move around a little bit. I'm going to increase the size. I'll tell you an exact number here in just a second. Let me just experiment. So you can see I'm making this look like it's actually pushed in, like it's debossed, meaning that the text has been shoved inside. That little bit of shadow seems to work. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit more so it's not quite as shadowed. So for the settings on this one, go ahead and do 53% opacity. Your blending mode is set to multiply and your color is set to black. Change your angle to 76. Put your distance as 12, your spread as 0, your size as 20. And then go ahead and click OK. All right, so that's looking okay. Now the problem is I want to have this go behind the guy. So what I can do is this. I can move this down below. I'm just grabbing the text and I'm moving it down below the man. And now it's behind there. But what I'm noticing is these clouds are doing a horrible, I don't know what the heck is happening up there. I am not enjoying what that's doing. So that blending mode is not really working well here. So here's what we're going to do. What I want to do is I want to start playing around with some of the stacking order here. So I'm going to press the control. I'm going to turn this layer back on. I'm going to press the control key and I'm going to click on the text thumbnail. So what that's done is it's now shown all of the text. It's highlighted the text that's on here. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to lower my opacity down to like 50% or so. It says 51, that's fine. Make my brush, I'm going to click, come on. I'm going to click in this gray area. Why is it not doing it? Let me switch to the move tool. Switch back to the brush. Sorry, this thing is starting to bog down a little bit. What I want to do is I want to bring back some of the color that's inside of these letters. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger by pressing the right bracket. And I'm going to flip the color so it's black. And as long as I'm on the clouds layer and I'm on the mask, I can now come in and I can tap on these a little bit. I don't mind having some of the clouds showing up on the text. So I'm just going to kind of tap around a little bit just to make it seem like there's some clouds coming through. I can press Control D. So what you end up with is, I don't really like that little edge, so I'm going to come up over here, shrink my brush down. and just kind of tap. If I want to bring back some of the clouds, I can switch my color to white. Yeah, that's starting to bring back the sky. I can hit X, bring that back as well. So get a little bit of an interesting effect happening there. And the last thing that I want to do here is I want to tone all of the colors down. So at the very top layer, I am going to click on the adjustment layer and I'm going to do a photo filter. Now with this photo filter, depending on the color that you use and the intensity that you use, it's going to essentially bring a light color across the entire thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a blue. And I'm going to click OK. And we'll bring this way down. If I bring it too far up, see, it just looks like a monochromatic, just single color. I don't know. Let's try like about 13%. That looks okay. Going to close that out. So this is a subtle effect, but notice what it did to the clouds. It kind of turned them a little bit blue. I'm starting to notice that I don't really like what's happening with this gradient down here. So I want to redraw this gradient. I'm going to grab my gradient tool. I'm going to start to experiment with going in the different directions. You can kind of see what kind of effect you want to have. Do you want to have more of the building? Oh, I'm kind of liking that. I'm just kind of dragging it from here to there, because then I get a little bit more of the color of the city and still have some of the drawing. All right, that is going to complete this effect, and go ahead and save this as a PSD file, and then go ahead and submit that one. And in the next series of tutorials, we're going to do much shorter, quick special effects, and then we'll start to do some other things, getting ready to build up your personal portrait collage.